Okay, just maybe an introduction to what we're going to be doing here. I'm playing the role of someone who's interviewing for a Scrum Master job. Not everything I say will be exactly true. That's okay. Your job is to figure out what is and isn't. We're trying to make this a little bit difficult for me, so I am not going to be the ideal candidate. We've got some people who are playing some roles here who are going to be the interviewing panel. Rather than just one person interviewing me, I'm going to be interviewed by a panel of three.
Correct.
I'll let them introduce themselves and tell you what their roles are. Joe, you want to start?
Yeah. So thank you, Art. So I guess we can go ahead and get started. So my name is Joe Labarra, and I am the IT Director of ABC Corp. I'd like to introduce some of my colleagues that you'll be interviewing with today. Four is a product owner of ABC Corp. And then we also have Ray, and he is our software development manager, and he'll have some questions as well. So, Art, thank you for taking the time to interview with us today. Just got some few questions we want to ask you, kind of get a little idea of your background and what you can help us with. So the first question I have for you is just tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me a little bit of your background, maybe some of the recent projects you've been working on lately, and just kind of give us an idea of who you are.
Sure. Let's see, I worked for a large corporation for a number of years, and I had various roles, process and requirements and business analyst, and I evolved into a Scrum Master role. And I got involved with Scrum back in 2010, and I was a Scrum Master for about 5 years. Then I did some other jobs within the company, and then when I retired, I went back into trying to do a little bit of coaching here and there with some various companies, and now I'm looking to go back into being a Scrum Master so I can get some more hands-on practical experience.
Okay, all right. Can you tell me about maybe a recent project that you've worked on, or some project in the past, and just kind of how that went?
Sure. So let's go back to some of the things that I was doing as a Scrum Master, and maybe that's a little bit more relevant for this particular position that we're talking about right here. So I was a Scrum Master in a project, real estate applications, that involved actually two teams, one in Mexico and one in Brazil. We weren't co-located at the time. My product owner was in Florida, so it was a very challenging situation.
And why would you say it was challenging?
Well, just the fact that we were in the midst of transition. So the real estate group had legacy applications in Domino, about 120 of them, and the company hadn't quite reorganized yet for Agile. So we had product owners who were actually acting as the business analysts, and they were sitting in the business in Florida. Development team in Brazil were just developers, and the Mexico team were testers. So my job then was to try and get teams that were cross-functional. In order to do that, that involved a great deal of cross-training, actually moving one of the team members from Mexico to Brazil to help teach the testers how to do development. We had to simultaneously do development in both the legacy and in getting ready for the new applications.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. So, well, tell me about a project that that didn't go as planned. That maybe failed, and how did you overcome that failure?
Okay. Well, it's a hard question. I don't fail too often, but
Okay.
I had a team that we started working on taking a group of applications that were various around the world, and we were going to create a single corporate solution. And the team working with the product owner and the product owner of another application. So we had a product owner for an SAP ledger system. We had the product owner for our application. And we came to an agreement that we were going to use new technology. We were going to use the cloud. And we were not going to push out any data. We were going to pull data from their systems using APIs. We got, I'd say about 9 months down the road, we got an MVP out and everything's looking good. And the product owner from the ledger system came forward and said, we're not going to go along with your architecture, and we're not going to move data into an API system for you. You have to figure out how to pull the data.
Mm.
Well, we're 9 months in, and this was a real problem. This was actually a big critical issue, because otherwise the whole project would fail. So what we had to do was get together as a team, get together with the product owner, and come up with a solution that we were going to figure out how to actually do their job for them, which we did.
Okay. So once you did that, what did you turn the project around and or?
Well, it was never an easy project to begin with, but we actually, moving along with that new solution in place, we actually did, we created the solution going along with the architecture that we developed. We started piloting with a country in Northern Europe. And then the next challenge came along because the company decided we should be co-located, and they were going to make us lose our architect from Brazil, who was the guy who had designed the whole system.
Okay.
So we had another challenge.
Okay. Thank you for that. So tell me, what do you think is the most important Scrum ceremony, and what do you think is the least important Scrum ceremony?
Oh, geez. So if they weren't important, we wouldn't have them. So they're all important.
Mm-hmm.
I could probably make a case for any one of the ceremonies. And also it depends on the maturity of the team.
Okay.
So you can't have a Scrum if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a sprint plan, if you don't have a goal for the sprint, and you don't commit to a certain amount of points to be done during the Scrum. Otherwise, you wouldn't have a Scrum, right? You wouldn't have a sprint, you wouldn't have an iteration, whatever we want to call it. On the other hand, if you're operating and you're at a high level, you may be co-located sitting around the table all day long, and maybe you're a high-performing team and you don't need a daily Scrum, and that's okay. But then the next thing that's very important is the demonstration, because you really want to show this thing to your stakeholders and get feedback, because the whole idea of Agile is to course correct. Do the work, right? Examine it, and then course correct and make adjustments. That's it.
So you said that, okay, I agree, they're all important. If you had to choose the most important one, what would that be? That would you say the review?
Sprint plan.
Oh, sprint plan. Okay.
I'd say sprint plan.
And what would you say is the least important?
think you stomped him on that one. Way to go, Joe.
I get these questions all the time, so it's very much real.
Well,
So just to let everybody know that.
That's tough. So if I had to choose, I would say the daily Scrum, only because if I had a mature team, I would think they may not need it.
Okay. Fair enough. All right, those are my questions. I'm going to turn it over to Four, and he's got some additional questions for you.
Art, thanks for spending time for us to get to know you and learn about your interest in the position and ABC Corp. I'm a product owner, as Joe said, and I have more than one team, and I think there's a good chance that you'll be working with one of my teams. So I'll just let me just pick up where Joe left for a moment. Quick question. What do you think of having the team decide what's the most important ceremony?
First of all, it's a pleasure to meet you, Four. I look forward to working with your teams. I kind of like the idea of having the team decide. My generally approach as a Scrum Master is that I'm a servant leader. So it's really my job to guide them, but not dictate to them. So I like the idea of the team deciding, but as the Scrum Master, since I'm responsible for their work, I'll probably have some input.
Okay, thank you. And excuse me, I'm bouncing back and forth in my question list here. What do you do when there's a conflict within your team? And if you want to tell that as a story, that's fine, or a different way.
Okay. Let me think. Conflict in my team. Okay. Once upon a time, I was a member of a team, and one of the members of the team was very detail oriented, and I'm the opposite. I'm a generalist. And as we were going along, this became a conflict. So it wasn't just a conflict amongst the members of the team that I was Scrum Master on, but I was actually in the conflict. And because we established such a good relationship within the team, even though we weren't personal friends at the time, we since became friends, she reached out to me and said, listen, I have this issue with you. And I said, this is great. Why don't we get together and talk about it? And we did. And we had our own personal meeting, and we worked on it. And she made a commitment to be understanding, and I made a commitment to be more detailed about my work. And it made a huge difference in the team functioning.
Was this something that the rest of the team ever knew about, these discussions?
I have to think. Yes, I think we discussed it in retrospective.
Mm-hmm. I want to come back to that, I think, but right now, I'd love to hear you talk a little bit about value, Arthur, and how do you identify that you're delivering value? And I'm talking about you in the role of coach, not so much the team delivering value, though, you know, it might be a hard line to draw.
So, right, as the Scrum Master and coach for the team, it's my job to make sure that the team becomes high functioning and follows all the Agile values and principles and all the Scrum principles, values. And so as such, the first thing I need to look at is how are our metrics going? Are we delivering on value? Do we have sprint goals, and are we achieving what it is that the business is looking for? because that value as a team is delivering value to the business. If we're delivering value to the business, we're in good shape. But if I see conflicts in the team, if I see the team, if individuals aren't really contributing to the points that we're delivering, somebody is delivering, much more than other people, and it's not just because of skill, then it's my job to find ways to bring the team together. Once I've got a team actually doing the basic ceremonies, the key to me is the retrospective, because the retrospective gives us a chance to talk about how can we get better. And the key is opening that up so that the topic is not just how can we improve our automated delivery, how can we improve automated testing, how can we improve integrated testing, but how can we as a team function more integrally? How can we improve our cross-training and become more of an integrated team that's, that individuals can play different roles within the team?
Well, your comments are interesting and shed a light, on some of your philosophical point of view. I want to be more specific now, but not move away from this. I want to hear about how you motivate your team. And what I was asking before is actually, how do you identify if you, Arthur, are delivering value, which I don't think I heard about. So in that context, tell us a little bit about how you motivate teams, and then I'd like to hear just a few more words, since our time is limited, about how you identify your own value delivery.
So the way I look at it is, as a Scrum Master, right? I'm a servant leader. So it's my job to remove blockers and make sure that the team is insulated from management and from demands that come in from different places, making sure that the product owner is performing their job. So if everything is working smoothly, I may find that I don't need to be there full time. I can start taking on another team, right? If we're not, on the other hand, performing at optimum, and I can look at the metrics and look at Jira and take a look at what's our velocity, and is it improving, and what's our burn down, and what's our burn up, and is it looking right? So my value is to have an oversight, an overview of what the team is performing. And then if there is anything that is not being performed well, whether the product owner, whether or not it's management, whether or not we're getting the right skills we need and the right resources, it's my job to make sure that those things happen so the team does perform optimally. If there's a conflict, then it's my job to get involved and make sure we resolve it. Right? So my value is making the team perform well. Good.
Want to go laterally and hear a little bit more personally about what would you say is your strengths and weaknesses as a coach, and tell me if you can catch me with my internet might be unstable.
Strengths and weaknesses. My strengths are working with the team, working with the individuals, bringing the team together. My primary goal is to have the team work like one efficient team. If you've seen the video of what it looks like when a team goes ahead and changes tires on a racing car and on a racetrack, that to me is an efficient, optimal team. Everybody works together, knows their job, and gets it done quickly and efficiently. My strength is in making that happen. My weakness might be writing Jira scripts so that I can optimize the use of Jira.
And recognizing that that's a weakness, taking that as an example, what do you do so that weakness doesn't actually negatively impact your team?
So what I've done in the past are three things. Take additional training, go to a mentor who's an expert in Jira and get help from them, and then copy all of their scripts so that I can reuse them without having to create them myself.
Okay. And this is an approach that's borne out in experience, I think.
Yes.
I think I maybe have time for one more question, Arthur, and we may have time for you to make some other comments if you want. And this actually gets to my next question, which is about process. So tell us a story, please, about an immature team and how you coach an immature team. Immature in the sense of maybe, you know, their Scrum capability.
So the first thing is getting to know the team and learning what their strengths and weaknesses are, right? Large companies have maturity assessments. Smaller companies just have you come in and take a look and work with the team and figure out what that is. So once you observe and see what it is that, that their weaknesses are and what their strengths are, the next step is having a meeting with the team and talking about what you observe and getting their feedback as to whether or not they agree and whether or not that they think that those are the things that they're weak in. And if we have different opinions, then we have a great discussion to talk about which of these things really are and which aren't. And I can educate them on what I think it means to be good at something, and they can tell me what they think it needs to be good, why they can't be, or what their challenges are. And then based upon that, what we can do is we can then look at the different practices and look at the different principles or values and figure out which are the ones that are the most important to address first. And then as a team, we can go ahead and we might do education sessions. We might do, if it's story writing, we might do story writing workshops. We might do breaking up stories into smaller stories. We might do storyboarding, different things we might do in order to address those things. But we're going to do that together and figure out how we get better as a team.
Thank you. I'm interested to hear you say a little bit more.
I think you broke up.
Here, an example of when you picked X or Y and you did it. And remember, this is an immature team, so I'm curious.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit. You may have to repeat your question.
I think you're looking for an example.
Yeah, yep, thank you. I get paid by the word.
Good interpretation there.
Okay, an example. Okay. I mean, a simple thing was working with Jira, as a matter of fact, and I had a few teams, and each individual team was working individually in Jira, and so I asked the teams, how can we know how the teams together are doing, and if we can consolidate the backlog and get more efficient at it and distribute it across the teams, can we look at Jira and figure out what was happening? And the answer was we couldn't, because everybody had their own instance. And so I did some investigating and found we could use the portfolio function if every team had its own individual team name. So we got everybody to agree, first of all, that that would be a good thing, which wasn't easy because some of the teams didn't understand why it is that there would be value in looking across the teams and seeing their work. So that took some discussion and education. And then once we got there, then we created individual team names and then had to also migrate to a single instance. So this involved work. So the team really had to understand there was value in bothering, or else they wouldn't have done it. Is that the idea?
Thank you. Yeah. I want to follow up on an earlier comment you said, if I remember correctly, you said you don't we're talking about successes and failures, and you said you haven't often had failures with teams as a coach. How do you learn from your successes then, as opposed to learning from mistakes and failures?
Well, so I distinguish between failures and mistakes. So failures are when things really go bad. Mistakes we make all the time. So I keep learning from my mistakes and then try not to repeat them. So some things that I've learned about is, first of all, not come in and make any assumptions about a team. Don't look at a maturity assessment and assume that that maturity assessment is accurate, that the team really understood the questions on the maturity assessment. There's a good chance they don't. Allowing one person on the team to dominate in the discussions, making sure that everybody gets to participate. That was something I had to learn. Learning how to be silent for longer periods of time was hard.
Great, thank you. In a moment, I'll, excuse me, step back and have my colleague Ray,
Who's the development manager?
a few more questions, and a little bit more from you.
Thanks.
So good evening, Art. Thank you for taking the time. I am the development manager, and as forementioned previously, we have a new team, new from an experience point of view, though some of the team members may not hold that same opinion. So a couple of questions for you. I'm expecting that one of them may ask you, why is Agile perfect for today's environment?
Okay, they probably will. They'll probably have a lot of questions, being the development team. But the main answer is, from a business perspective, it's critical because we need to be able to adapt and adapt quickly. We can't wait for how long it takes for a waterfall project to actually deliver value. By the time it's all done, the value isn't there. The world has changed. The competition's changed. The budget's gone. Too many things can go wrong in a long period of time. So the shorter the time period goes where you're from the business need to delivering value, the more effective we are.
Could you explain to me, if I was one of your team members, what's Agile? What's Scrum? Is that the same thing, Art?
So when we teach Agile, everybody has an umbrella. So we have an umbrella chart. The umbrella chart shows what is within the Agile umbrella. The Agile umbrella involves both methodologies, frameworks, and techniques. Scrum is a methodology. And then people have taken Scrum and then built on top of that frameworks that can deliver on a larger corporate level.
Now we have teams that develop solutions. We have teams that support our clients. Frameworks. Do we send them on a mission following the same development framework or support framework? Do we distinguish them? How do we address that issue? Which is best for them to follow and why?
So that depends on the level that we're talking about. So if we start at the lowest level of team, the two major methods that we're using are Scrum and Kanban. And so the first thing we need to understand is, what is the work that the team does, right? What's the makeup of the team? What's the work that they do? And then based upon their work, we can figure out what's the best methodology. We also need to understand from the business side, is the business going to give us the roles that we need in order to do Scrum, right? So am I going to have a dedicated product owner? I can't do Scrum if I don't. although we can try and make it work with a part-time product owner, but we need a product owner who has decision-making ability, who holds the vision. Otherwise, we can't do Scrum, and maybe we can do Kanban. It typically takes a more mature team or a team that's working in operations to use Kanban. And there are subtle differences between them, and many places have kind of merged them together.
How do we deal with teams that are neither of those frameworks? How do we interact with them? How do we effectively deliver if we're following different development processes and we have different opinions on how to deliver our work?
So if Agile is going to be effective on a business level, then we need management to make some decisions here. Remembering that culture follows organization, we need to really understand that the organization structure is going to support Agile. If it doesn't, we can get a certain percentage of the value of Agile, but not the full value of Agile. But you certainly can take any team and find methods and techniques within Scrum and Kanban that can be used to make that team more effective.
So are those traditional waterfall teams gonna experience frustration because they're gonna have to deal with teams that are following a different methodology, a different framework?
Not if you do it right. So, for example, a waterfall team, should it be a small team to be effective? Yes. Would it be good if they were co-located? Yes. Should they have constant contact with the stakeholders and with their customers? Sure. Just because you're doing waterfall doesn't mean that all of these things aren't good practices to follow. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you want to actually just be a project manager, or do you want to involve the team in decision making? As a project manager, you certainly don't want to be starting to make, you know, architectural decisions or decisions about what can be done when or what needs to be done first. So a good project manager on a waterfall team could use many of the techniques and many of the values in Agile and apply them just as well.
Oh, interesting. Interesting you should say that. How did the Scrum Master and the product owner enable that kind of adoption and transformation? You know, what should we expect from those people to help us get to where we're going?
So we'll start with the product owner, right? Because since the product owner is really the one telling you, this is what the business wants. This is what my customers want. Right? Now we start to work with the customer to figure out, how do we prioritize what it is that we're going to deliver? And if you just follow it logically, you'll come to Agile whether or not you've ever heard of it. And you can come to Scrum practices without ever read a Scrum guide. Because you'll know, you know what, why don't we get together every day and talk for a few minutes and figure out what everybody's doing and how we're doing, and just touch base, right? So as you work together and as you evolve into figuring out what is the right thing to do for a team, you can then have the benefit of other people's experience and introduce Scrum practices and introduce other Agile practices.
Okay. Now I'm expecting, Art, that because we have different methodologies at this company, that you're going to have some direct conflict with maybe myself because I have a different opinion on how things should happen, or even the teams. So how do we handle that conflict? How do we handle that difference of opinion?
So whenever there's a difference of opinion, right? So it's interesting. So now you go back to coaching, conflict management. It's just like union negotiations, right? People start from two different ends of the world, and you have to bring them together and start to find some commonality, you know, and it's all about talking, and it's all about communicating.
Okay, talking and coming to a shared understanding? Do you think at the end of the conversation, we're going to be in 100% in agreement, or?
Not usually, not the first, not the first conversation. It's never that easy. But you start from there, and then you take it a step at a time. All right, if we start off this far, let's find one thing we can agree on. If we have one thing we can agree on, if we can agree on purpose, if we agree that we want the best for the company, if we agree that it would be a good thing if we could all work together and achieve something and find the most efficient way to share resources, right? We can slowly but surely make progress, right?
Okay. Thank you. Getting back to that immature team, getting back to the question that Joe asked. Those Scrum events, those Scrum events, immature teams starting out new. Is there really any one that's not important?
No, when you're starting off new, right? So we have this shuhari thing. And basically the whole idea is that if you're starting off new, you have to do everything. And
Why?
You got to follow the letter of the law, right? You got to follow each one of the 5 practices. You have to meet every day for 15 minutes. You have to time box it. You have to do your grooming. You have to have these things scheduled and done at specific times, you know, as the team. You know, you have to do your full demonstration. When they start off, many teams start doing demonstrations with product owners. Eventually, they'll start doing demonstrations with stakeholders because the product owner was involved every day, and the product owner already said yes before you ever got to your demonstration, right? So, beginning, they got to do everything.
Okay.
Right?
So Art, 90 days from the day that we hire you, what is it going to look like for us?
What am I getting? So what have I got? I got a new team. They never met each other. They never worked on the product.
They know each other. They've been introduced to each other, but I'm not saying that they are a tight-knit group. It's a casual thing.
So we're going to start with getting everybody together and finding out what it is that we got to do, right? What's the work we got to do? What are the skills we have on the team to do it, right? Do I have the team that can actually produce? Do we need anything for the team? Do we have our roles in place? And then from there, we're going to go through 90 days. We're going to do education sessions. We're going to train the team. We're going to train them in basics. We're going to train them in advanced things. We're going to train the product owner. We're going to train the management. And we're going to get everybody on board and on the same page, right? At the end of the 90 days, if we thought about maturity as 4 levels, 90 days, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Let's say if they're doing safe, they come into their first PI. They haven't even gone through a PI yet, so they'll probably be at like a level 2. Right? Now they got to go through some kind of quarterly planning, and then they'll evolve during the next 3 to 6 months.
So we don't actually run safe at ABC Corp. So tell me more about that, a little bit about that. Like what are you referring to?
So
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, no problem.
Great.
So in SAFE, they do this really get together. Other companies might just call it quarterly planning.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially what happens is, and this is a good practice for any company, they shouldn't just do planning once a year because they're in big trouble if they do in this environment. And that's why we're talking about Agile, right? So you're going to come through some quarterly planning and there may be some adjustments. There may be some changes in missions. There may be some reprioritized things. And so the team is going to have to then take another look at that with the product owner, you know, reprioritize, take a look at what features they can deliver, what they can't, and re-baseline what it is that they're going to be doing, making sure that what they're delivering fits in, not just that they delivered something of value that based on what their product owner said, but within the division, did they deliver the highest value to the division? So we want to start to take a look at things on a higher level, on a portfolio level or a division level.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Ray, go ahead.
No, that's no problem. Thank you, Joe. So Art, I want to ask you a metrics question, but I'm probably going to run out of time. So I'm going to ask you a different question. Myself and the two other gentlemen, the four of us, no pun intended, but four, are going to get together and we're going to have to make a decision on art. So please finish the sentence for me. We would benefit from your hiring because
I will help you. I will provide the best Agile experience for your teams that you can imagine.
unlike someone else because
That's how good I am.
Wow. There you go.
I like your confidence.
Hey, Art, we asked you a lot of questions, some tough questions, and Ray, thank you for those questions. A lot of good questions and answers. Now, do you have questions for us?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I could ask you what it is you're looking for. Typically in an interview, I would ask, where are you in your Agile journey?
Okay. I can answer that one.
Right?
So we're just starting to get into it. Like Ray was saying, some of our team is pretty much used to waterfall and geared towards that. And we want to start looking into, especially with all the VUCA world we live in nowadays, we want to adapt and make sure that we're competitive and we meet our customers' needs. Our main focus is on our customers. So we're venturing into this, and that's why we need a strong Agile leader to help us guide us through that.
Great. You guys gonna be hiring other coaches, other Scrum Masters?
Yeah, we're looking to hire 3 in total. You're our second interview, so we are looking to build a team to help us.
That's great. That's great. How long do you think the journey is going to last based on your view?
What do you mean the journey?
Well, you're going to transform into Agile. You think you'll get it done in a year, 2 years, 5 years?
I'm hoping we get it done this month.
Cute.
So if you come work for us, you'll find that Joe sometimes has a very good sense of humor.
Yeah. So yeah, realistically, we're probably looking at 2 years, and making the best progress we can.
Well, we would like to make a significant amount of progress within the first 365 days.
Yeah.
Because we figured that there's going to be a lot of disruption and frustration with people using different methodologies and working, and that different way of working is going to cause some friction. So when we get some success stories under our belt, we do some great adoptions as part of the big transformation. As you mentioned before, be able to transfer some of those positives even to the waterfall teams. So they can start thinking of how they could improve and change how they do business for the betterment of the company. So, well,
that makes sense. Also, you want to do at least a demonstration and get a team up and running and doing really great job and showing the rest of the company what you can accomplish with Agile.
A success story that we can build on, which is why it's important for us to have a strong Scrum Master that can help us in that win, that can serve as both the mentoring team for the other teams, but also the example of the model that they can follow.
Yeah. And 4 has, he's got to deliver a lot of products for our customers, so he needs all the help he can get. He's got a big roadmap for the company.
Well, 4, I think we can do great things together.
You're muted.
You're mute, 4.
I'm glad to hear that, Art. Thanks, Joe. And I'm glad to contemplate that. And of course, in my role, success is really in the eyes of the customer, ultimately.
I agree 100%.
Okay. Any other questions for us, Art?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay.
Did we want to take,
All
I
right.
think there were some questions that were on the chat. I don't know if you guys wanted to address some of that now, or if you had something else that you guys wanted to tackle.
Yeah, we can give a couple of shot here. How much more time do we have? So
You have 30 minutes.
Yeah.
still have 30 minutes. Yeah, we can. So
So what do you want to open up to the floor?
yeah. I was going to Nelo. Do you know where the first question is?
Yes, actually, the first question when we have here is, can you tell me a little bit about your experience with Scrum of Scrums?
Okay. So Scrum of Scrums is the basic, simplest scaled Scrum approach. And the idea in scaled Scrum is quite simply, you're taking Scrum and then you're just doing it again on the next level. So you've got one team doing Scrum, and you've got different teams that have dependencies on each other in order to deliver something that's related. In that case, what you're going to do is you're going to bring the teams, you're going to bring the Scrum Masters together. Typically, I also like to have some of the key technical people from each of those teams come to that Scrum of Scrum meetings, so that if there are any issues that come up that relate to dependencies or relate to how we're going to be working together, that's one approach. In a framework called LESS, the idea is then that if you have teams that are so related, see if you can get to a point where there's a single backlog for all of those teams. And then the teams are pulling from the same backlog. Now, you might have some unique skills on one of those teams or another team, and they may pull particular stories, but they could also probably help with other stories. So if there's a priority, if there's something important for the overall thing that you're delivering, you know, whether it's a feature or whatever it is, then you have a better chance to distribute that work and get your prioritized work done.
So Art, let me ask you a question. How do you know when enough is enough? Like, someone asked you a question right now, and what are you looking for to find out, okay, I met your objective, or did you just want to know it's a Scrum of Scrum, you know, teams come together and they have, I mean, I'm just curious how you feel that out as an interviewee.
So the first thing is, like the technique I just used, is I stopped for a second. And I want to see if they're going to ask me something else, or if they're really just hesitating and not sure where to go next. So then my next statement, if I'm not getting anything and it feel like it's not, you have to get a feel for it. So if I feel it's not resolved from their attitude, then I'll have to ask, is there something else you want to know about Scrum of Scrums, particularly if you want to know the ceremonies, you want to know how often do they meet? That could depend on them. They probably won't meet daily. They'll probably meet more than once a week. That'll be up to them to decide. So we can talk about how far into the detail you want to get.
Lou, what's the next question?
So our next question is, how does your sprint planning agenda looks like?
So the first thing is, in sprint planning, we want to take a look and see, do we have enough stories for the next sprint that are ready? All right, so that's a key concept, is making sure the stories are ready, making sure that there's at least a high level sizing, they're prioritized, they've got acceptance criteria, and that if we took that story into the sprint, we could actually then get it done. You know, does it need refinement? You know, did we actually get that done? Do we need to break it down into more stories? Can we really size it? Then the next thing is, do I have enough stories for the next 2 sprints? So let's take a look and make sure we do, and if not, let's plan something out in order to work on that and do some more refinement. Now, you know, we're not using the word grooming anymore, right? We're just using refinement now. Does everybody know why?
People in England don't like that. It kind of means something else.
Yeah, so basically, grooming is used in England for pedophiles. Groom young kids in order to do their thing. So they give them ice cream and stuff. So that's called grooming in England. So now you know why it's really bad to use that term.
So you probably don't want to use that in an interview, right? Just want to make sure.
Right. So use refinement. They'll know you're up to date on things.
Use what?
Just talk about that
Refinement.
story. I don't know if that story would actually go well in an interview. I don't know.
You don't tell the story. No, don't tell the story.
No, you just use refinement instead of grooming in
But
an interview.
we cut that part of the video, okay?
It's called backlog refinement, and that would be the
Backlog refinement, right? So
Good
yes,
to have the context.
that's kind of the agenda that I would go through, right? And so what we're going to do for the planning session now is we got to go ahead and we got to size our stories. So we got to do some, poker or, whatever technique you want to use. Nowadays everybody's using points. Nobody does small, medium, large anymore.
All
But
right.
maybe in a small outfit you would do it.
I like the way that you identified an entrance criteria first, and then you said, so now we're gonna start to look at what we can do. So as to say sprint planning doesn't start at sprint planning. There's preparation that occurs, and you need to do that. And when you're in the interview, showing that breadth of knowledge can be very helpful.
Yeah, whenever I get a single question, I try to show that how it relates to everything else that we're doing. So I have it in context. And it's not just a flat answer.
Right.
I wanted to open it up for more questions and I want a tough question. Like, think about one of the interviewing, let's get Art uncomfortable. This is too easy for him. I want him to actually start sweating a little bit.
This was not easy, let me tell you.
No, I know some of those questions
They
were
were
tough.
tough,
I was
yeah.
like, how would I answer that?
Tough questions, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
you
were.
guys were busting my chops.
They were,
Actually, I think four did a pretty good job there. I mean,
Oh, yeah, full was hell.
Poor as hell, yeah. Poor as hell. Wow.
he took my questions and made it like his own flavor to it, and
Which means Art didn't know the questions that were coming.
Yeah, some of it was complete surprise. Some of it, I guess. But I want to get some other questions from the group here. What other questions can we ask Art that they've asked you and completely stomped you at an interview? Come on, share.
This is an odd question. I don't know if it's, if you were an animal, what animal you would be and why?
what was it?
Yeah.
If you were an animal.
If you were an animal, what animal would you be? He
And
is
why?
an animal. And
Yes.
why? And why? Go
Did you
for it.
get that question?
Yeah, so I would say a bald eagle in America. First of all, I could fly. I'm at the top of the food chain, and I'm a protected species.
So that's nice.
So being a predator isn't an issue, or
Not in the animal kingdom.
a meat eater? No.
Somehow the words prey and coach don't go together.
Right.
I mean, predator and coach don't go together.
I was thinking more like an armadillo or.
Armadillo. All right, anybody else? That was a good one, Anna. Great job. Who else? Come on. Give me another one.
I got a
The
I got a
ideal
rep-
amount- what
Go
do
ahead.
you think is the ideal amount of time that you spend in meetings and outside of meetings? And what do you do outside of the meetings? Is your job mostly to run the meetings as a Scrum Master?
My job as a Scrum Master is to start off running the meetings and over time, turn the meetings over to the team to run. Let them rotate, let them learn how to run them themselves. My job is, and it's not running meetings. So project managers run meetings, and what we do is facilitate. Our job is to help the meeting along and help the meeting achieve its goal without actually running it, without actually directing.
So you could probably manage like 7 or 8 teams if you're just facilitating a few meetings, right?
No, that's not just what you do. So, I mean, from what I've seen, the biggest job is to, you're doing a number of things. You're maintaining all of the metrics. You're the liaison to the business. You're the liaison to the product owner. You're making sure that the product owner is doing what they need to do. You're doing a lot of training of the product owner and the business and management. And your job also is to remove blockers, making sure, hey, you know, how's the team working? I got somebody going on leave of this. Do I need to find some other resource to fill in? What about all the dependencies that have to get dealt with? Because you have to manage, in the outside world, you're not just running a team, but you're also managing a board of dependencies and a board of risks. And so you have to, so even though you're not a project manager, you still have to do some management on those kind of things. You have to make sure that there's a release plan and that you have working with the product owner, make sure that you're working towards that release plan and you're on target. And so what happens is you end up doing a lot of the work. So it's not just the meetings of the team. And so as a Scrum Master, it's really full-time. You end up working a lot going through each individual story and making sure the acceptance criteria are right, making sure that that story actually can get done, working with the developers, making sure that they really are full-time, that they're not being pulled off in different directions. So in a real world situation, you're working with, typically there's a resource manager because nobody's really agile. Not too many companies are anyway. So there's a resource manager, there's a budget component. In some places you're doing the budget piece, in other places the project manager will still have budget management.
All right.
So
Right.
when you're in an agile environment, you've got a project manager too?
In many environments, especially the ones that I've been in large corporations, there's a project manager who's got responsibility because then they've got all of these tools that they have to maintain for detailed stuff because they haven't gotten rid of their project management oversight and risk management oversight. So there's a corporate risk log and there's budget considerations reporting on, you know, they're not yet on agile budgeting, so they got to report on everybody's time and whether or not you're still delivering value and how's your business case and making sure that your business benefits are being delivered. So think of everything that a project manager does, and the Scrum Master is doing it without being calling it project management.
Awesome. Great job. Great job. Great question. Let's get some other questions out there, guys.
Hey, Art, tell me how you do your retrospectives.
I keep it simple. I mean, if they've been doing it for a while with the team, you know, there are different visual tools that you can use for the retrospective. But I like to keep it really, really simple. You know, what went well, what didn't go well. Now let's get together some ideas for improvements, and then let's pick 1 or 2 that we're going to do in the next sprint or the next 2 sprints. If there's something that we pick up, I want to actually create a story for it so that we can actually account for it, you know, in our tool. And commit to it.
So what kind of help do you need to be successful as a Scrum Master? I know you're sounding like a Scrum Master is a hero of everything, but do you ever need some help to be successful?
You always need help. I mean, the first place you go to is the team. If you go to the team and they feel that they're important to you, then they'll respond more to you. You can't just be the hero. You have to be the person who is truly the servant leader. You're there to help the team be successful. You have, in all reality, if you've got the team working well, you have nothing to do with their success. All you have to do is making management happy. And what'll happen is at that point is you start being a Scrum Master for a second team and just, you know, keep an eye on them.
Do you also need help outside the team? Do you ever see that way?
So imagine So you've got two worlds that we live in, right? And one of them is DevOps. One of them is cloud. So in the cloud, the team is totally independent. They're going to do everything on their own, except there's still going to be risk management. There's going to be separation of duties. So, so there's compliance pieces of this thing. And you have to make sure that all the stuff that gets done. And so now you're going to be, you want to become best friends with your auditors, best friends with your compliant organization. You want to have relationships with the risk management team so that they give you a little bit of leeway when you say you've got a risk that's being addressed. If you need to get deployed, you want to bring people from the DevOps team into your planning, into your release planning. And maybe even into your demonstrations and get some feedback from them. You need management help because your resources don't stay around forever. People go on vacation. You may need help from other Scrum Masters because you may get sick or need to go on vacation. So you need help from everybody.
Art.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I got one. So Art, your project was projected to be 8 sprints. You're in your 6th sprint, and it's very clear you're not going to be able to finish by your 8th sprint. What are you telling 4 about the status of the project?
I should know before then. So the whole idea of Agile is if I've got a release plan and I have a certain amount of stories, so every sprint, I'm taking a look at the high-level story points on my backlog and what I'm delivering in that sprint. And so every time I have a sprint, I know what's left. And after the 2nd sprint, I should know how I'm doing and then communicate, because that's the key Agile principle is communicating visibility. So I'm not just communicating, but I want to have my status visible to management at all times.
All right. So
I
great.
have a question.
Go ahead. One last question, guys. And we
Yeah.
got Marcelo that just stepped in. Oh, Marcelo, we missed you. Go ahead.
So Art, you just started a new company, and let's say that the team that you are in charge of right now, up until now, have not really had a lot of experience working remotely, but now you have dispersed team and you're new on the job and you need to bring the whole team together, a team that doesn't have experience in doing a project together from different locations. How do you manage that?
The first thing we do is just get together and introduce each other and find out who we are, where we live, what our skills are, what we like to do, what our hobbies are, and just have coffee.
So would your expectations in terms of their productivity have to be altered a little bit because of that, or?
Initially, yeah. You're not, especially what I'm finding is not every company and not everybody has all the right tools that they need in order to really operate effectively virtually. We can demonstrate it. We can tell you what tools you need. We can tell you the techniques you need, but not everybody's got the fastest internet access. Not everybody's got, not every company has the tools available that you want. You know, they don't have Miro, they don't have Mural. So it's more difficult when they're dispersed. And so they're not going to be as productive, but you can be very productive. And over time, if the company supports you, then you can be very effective.
Thank you.
All right. Great job, Art. Great job. Great job. Great job. So is this over? Absolutely not. Guess what? We do this on Saturday. So if you have additional questions, we have a forum for you. You guys can post there. We can talk through it. We have a lot of, collaborative ways of us communicating, right? So Saturday is also a major important. One thing that I want to do right now, and it's very important for us, is we like to take a picture. So we would love for you guys to put your cameras on right now. And this is a special picture because we've got a lot of people that are unemployed or people that are looking for new jobs. We want to make sure that we send out a message to all the people out there that are currently about to interview for the 3rd interview, and I won't mention who that is, but we want to set a very positive vibe to say, we want you to get that job. We want you to get that. So give us a symbol. First, let's get the cameras on. I don't see all the cameras on. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's get the cameras on. I know that we don't look that great today, you know, but let's get that hair nice and, you know, in place. And again, you're sending a message. Think about this positive message that you're sending out for the people that are going through this hard time of either looking for a job, they're interviewing, they're gotten their third interview, and they want to get that job, okay? So I'm going to take a snapshot. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and your job is to put a symbol out there. Put a symbol, whatever symbol you reflects that to you, you put it out to the world. Everybody got it? All right. So let me get my system ready here. Think about your symbol. Think about your symbol. All right. You guys ready? Again, we need these guys employed. Let's do this. All right. 1, 2, 3, go. And hopefully you guys are smiling. I know we had some problems last time. I'm looking at faces. Yes, you were all smiling during the picture. I'm sending that picture to Neilu. Hold on, Neilu. Let me put you in there.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, and it should be there. Should get that. So let me know when you got that, Neilu. That was a pretty heavy picture there. Again, so this is what we do. Every Wednesday, we come in here and we talk about different areas. The next week's topic, Bob, you there, sir?
Yeah.
So again, mention the next week's topic. What is it?
It's about values. So we see values in Scrum and Agile, companies, departments. So we're going to talk about the different types of values, their meanings, and how we use them and how we can sort them out and how we can synchronize them.
I love it. As a coach, as an enterprise coach, I always like to dive into the value part of it. There's too many people trying to work on process and all this, and they think that's the answer to all their problems. Get real. The problem is always at the root of people communicating values. That's really where the real change occurs, where the real partnership occurs. We're on this together, okay? So thank you, Bob, for reaching out. We also have some additional stuff happening the following weeks as well. So keep in mind, we're going to have a nice agenda for you guys moving on every week. Join us on Saturday. Neilu, are you ready? So this is the competition that always happens. Who's the first one to like it? We get the picture, we put it on LinkedIn, and then whoever's the fastest trigger person here, and Christina has been taking it for the last couple of things. I need somebody to beat her, okay? Do not let her win this time, okay? Whatever it takes, make sure you're the first one to like it. Whoever's the first one to comment, that would be even the next level of that, but that's the race, okay? Let's see. Uh-oh, Christina's looking at me like she was the first one. I don't think so. Is that true? Who was the first one to like it?
I win.
You win?